All right.
So
well, since you're recording this, you want us just start talking and you tell me when you think you got enough?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is a part of my podcast. You're a recurring visitor, so you're now a contributor. And yeah, so we'll get you that badge just as soon as I have it made up.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about a lot of different issues, and obviously one subsetting is going to be current events, current affairs. And I've got this sort of idea that if something's a big enough current event, it eventually turns into a political event. And so I don't love politics, but you can't really help but understand that if you're talking about things that holds people's interest at some point in time, they're probably going to, venture into the waters of politics. And so what seems to be the hot button topic right now is this sales tax referendum that's going to be on the ballot. And, I've heard people buzz about this for the last couple of months, and I wasn't quite sure how to think about it, because when I think about taxes, my guts start turning on the inside, and I think that the government's not spending my money well, and I don't want to contribute any more money to taxes than I have, because I'm not happy with, what I'm getting for my dollar at this point in time. So that's how I feel. I mean, about most things when it comes to taxes and government, but I start listening just a little bit outside the bounds of that box. And, I start hearing people who typically would agree with me in that general perspective disagree with me and say, no, you need to take a closer look at the sales tax issue, because it may not be something we all like, but it's something that we really, really need. And when somebody tells me I need something, the hair on the back of my neck stands up, and I really want to understand why, especially what appears to be a pretty big deal. And I've noticed that you were vocal about it. You seem like you've made your mind up pretty hardcore that it is something that not only is needed, but we should pass. And I would dare say that you appear to be advocating for that.
Absolutely. I'm out. I have, when you do anything in the state of Florida, if you get serious about it, you just about have to start a political action committee. So I've done that part, which helps bring like-minded individuals together so that we can educate the public on what's going on. I don't think what people don't realize is this is an unprecedented opportunity for Walton County. We've managed to take the majority of the Transportation Planning Organization, which this is the regional group that FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, looks to for what our needs and everything are coming forward, going into the future. So Walton County finally has, even though we don't have as many representatives as they do over in Okaloosa County, because all the little cities get their own, you'll get a person on the board. Somehow we've put ourselves, not only where we have a majority of the TPO, Tony Valley from the city of Defuniak Springs is now the chairman of the TPO. Well, like you said, you don't like politics, but if you understand how politics works, it's all about relationships and being in positions where you can get things done. So now we are in a position where we can get things done. FDOT has millions of dollars for our region, but in order to get our projects, even though we've done really good on getting our projects on the priority list, we're over 50% of our projects are considered prioritized projects by Florida Department of Transportation. The way to keep those on the priority list is if FDOT says this project costs $100 million, if we say, well, hey, if we give $15 million, can we start next week? And they go, well, yeah, because it stretches our money. Now we've got another $15 million we can go do something else with. This is no different than what just happened over in Bay County. They're doing a infrastructure project over there that is doing a realignment of some roads that intersect with 231. It's a $14 million project. Bay County, along with Panama City, said, we'll give $2 million, and FDOT said, we'll pay the other $12 million, and we'll go ahead and get started on this project. It's also kind of what happened with the underpass going on in Inlet Beach. I'm not quite sure of those numbers, but I know that we use some county dollars and some tourist development dollars, because that is clearly a tourist issue there to get people from Rosemary Beach to the shopping on the north side of 98 without getting run over by a car. So we were able to get a decision where we could use some of that. I think it was around $600,000 of that money into getting that project done. The whole thoughts are, if that works out successfully, we can actually do more of those underpasses all the way over from the east end of Walton County to the west end of Okaloosa County. Because, over in the city of Destin, it's people get run over there trying to cross the street pretty regular. So, they're looking for a safety thing.
Why do we need to raise more money when we spend money on projects that seem to be just kind of sitting around doing nothing? I don't know. I'm talking about some of the land that we've bought recently, golf garden. I know that we have bought a golf course recently that we spend millions of dollars every year maintaining at a loss. Or I think I know that anyways.
Well, first of all, there's no parks and recreation. There's no profit to be made in parks and recreation. As far as spending millions of dollars, yes, we've spent some money out. We got an excellent deal out there at the Eagle Springs Recreation Center. Yes, we've spent some money on it. Quite a bit of it was grant money, or it was recreational development funds. It wasn't ad valorem tax dollars. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to go out there. That place is covered up. It's the recreational hub of the north end of the county right now. We have a ton of people from the south end drive up here to play golf there. They just recently opened a little cafe up out there. The food is absolutely fantastic. We've got swimming pool out there, tennis courts. They're getting ready to expand or create pickleball. They've got that disc golf thing plus an 18-hole golf course.
But don't you agree? I mean, why are we spending money on parks and recreational losses when we've got all these important infrastructures needs that we're talking about raising money for? I mean, shouldn't we tighten our belt? I mean, shouldn't we use the money we have to get down as far the road we can and be happy, about the efficiency we're operating with our current budget, rather than what appears to be sort of a wasteful nature of our county to spend money, and now we're asking for more money. We're asking for people to pay to give us more money, and I mean there is a report out saying that we're not doing such a great job in the management of operations. I haven't read the report. I want to do an episode specifically on that report to dive. Well,
I would encourage you before you act like it's a report saying we're not doing a great job, when like on page 1 or page 2, it says that we meet the qualifications to do the sales tax. And it does list some deficiencies. Some of those have already been addressed. A great majority of them is we don't have enough data analysts just sitting around writing reports. Our people are out working. They did say, hey, we would like to see more data, more proof in the data that something is cost effective. And one of the things they did talk about is they would like to see us go to a design build concept for roads, which is something FDOT has done. We've explored it, but we've never had county commissioners that are willing to make that step. And I think we do now. And they're just saying, hey, y'all need to look at the data because we think that would save you any more money. As far as whether or not you want to spend money on recreations, I mean, first of all, when people look at moving into an area, when people look at relocating industries in the area, they look for recreational opportunities. And how do you pick which ones you don't want to fund anymore? Do we shut down the beach accesses on the beach? Do we which parks, which citizens should have access to what? Who's going to make that choice?
The recent allegations or uncoverings of how money is being spent, particularly at the Board of County Commissioners level, with the examination by the clerk of courts on the purchase card issue, doesn't really lend itself to be very, it doesn't really make me feel very confident that things are being addressed, on the county level the way they should be with the available funds.
Bo, did you watch his latest press release from the clerk of courts?
Alex Alford's?
Yes. Where he has come out and said there was nothing there. It was a miscommunication. He's actually renaming the department that did the thing. He said it was just all a misunderstanding.
When did this come out?
WMBB ran it about 2 or 3 days ago. It was quite interesting that we've gone this full circle. And of course, he also said there was a lot of miscommunication between himself, the state attorney's office, and the sheriff's department. First, he claimed that the state attorney's office told him that he couldn't speak to the commissioners, and they've come out now and said, well, A, we didn't tell you that, and B, we don't have the authority to tell you that. Then he's said that the sheriff's department led him to believe there was some things that he shouldn't have communicated, and they don't know what he's talking about. And now he's saying he's going to rename the department. I think it's called Audits and Fraud. Now it's just going to be called Accounting Review or something like that. I just caught the tail end of it on WMBB. So basically it's came out. We've gone full circle. We've wasted a lot of money investigating it. And it's been much ado about nothing.
Well, I would have to look into that, Robert.
MBB, I believe that was the station that ran it.
Yeah.
I posted a link to it on the Walton County Visioning page. I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that statement come out by the clerk of courts, which is surprising because I'm halfway looking around. I would expect that to be bigger news. And I don't hear too many people talking about that.
No, people don't talk about it because it's not a bad thing. People talk about what fits their agenda.
Well, and I'll tell you something that, is frustrating to me as just an average citizen. And that's the gridlock that comes along with people looking at the same campfire and seeing two completely different pictures. It's amazing to me how, people who claim to be halfway intelligent can sit down and read the same report and have drastically two different conclusions. And I think the sales tax is a lot like that.
And confirmation bias is real. I think we all suffer from it. So we look at the same thing, we look at the same news sources, but we're going to try to, our own internal bias is going to lead us down a different path. But look, when it comes to solving our problem of gridlock, we're looking at the FDOT priority list. We're looking at the state of Florida to do it. It's not us doing it. The dollars collected go into an infrastructure trust fund. They're very, very restricted on what they can do. They have to be spent on roads. They can't be spent on anything else. And this is audited once a year. This is actually an opportunity for the public to say to the county commissioners, we're tired of you spending money on recreation. We're tired of you spending money on first one thing and then the other. So we're going to give you this money, and the only thing you can do is fix our road and our infrastructure problem. You can make evacuations quicker. You can make it where first responders can get to calls more quickly, which would save lives. This is what we want you to work on. And this is an opportunity for us to take the power away from the commissioners and say, here, because their hands are going to be totally tied on what they can do. It's going to be just like it was with the bridge. After the bridge was done and we had $6 million left over, I think there was a little bit of discussion about, we could go do this here and we could go do this there. And FDOT in the state of Florida said, no, you got to spend it on the bridge or something right there at the bridge. So we ended up with the Pilcher Park and whatever the park is on the north side.
Do you have the verbiage of the language that's going to be on the ballot?
I can pull it up real quick. I've got it on my website.
I'm curious what you think about the language. I mean, it's pretty simple. It outlines what it can be used for. It mentions 30 years. I think there's one phrase in there where it's sort of open-ended, including but not limited to, some language like that, referring to some of the.
Well, you have to understand that the passing. First of all, the ballot language is very. It has to be done a certain way by Florida statute or Constitution or whatever. So it has to be approved so that it's clear and concise. But this language actually causes the enacting of Ordinance 22-11, and that's what's going to be the driving force of the thing. But But the language is, should transportation facilities and services be funded throughout Walton County, including but not limited to projects that improve roads, bridges, expand public transit options, fix potholes, enhance bus services, relieve rush hour bottlenecks, improve intersections, make walking and biking safer by levying a 1 cent sales tax not to exceed 30 years and subject to annual review by the Board of County Commissioners. And if you look at the underlying ordinance that this enacts, that's where you see the independent audit has to be done annually, and the dollars are limited to road improvements. So you're telling me something here I didn't know. I should know it. If the ballot measure is approved, then it enacts a more specific statute, and you just referenced it. What is it again? It's Walton County Ordinance 22-11.
22-11.
So yeah, this is just a language. It's kind of like when you look at a constitutional amendment, they don't put all the details on the ballot measure. They have to get it limited where it's a single subject. And a lot of times all you see on a constitutional amendment is when you pass it, then it has to go to the Florida legislature for the enabling legislation. It doesn't just work off of the amendment. There has to be a law passed. So we've already got the law ready so that we can move quickly. Because one of the things, this problem at our growth rate, you look at what's happening with the city of Freeport, fastest growing city in the state of Florida. With our growth rate, it's going to take 2-3 years at least to fix some of these things. So this is just an opportunity for us to start getting some projects on the books and start going down that path. Otherwise, we wait and it gets worse.
I know everybody has to do their own research.
Absolutely.
And you've done a pretty heck of a job compiling some of this stuff so that it's digestible to average folks like me. I was in a meeting the other day. Current needs, do these numbers ring a bell? Current needs of transportation projects is somewhere around 120 million.
For the next 5 years.
For the next 5 years. Shovel-ready projects that are ready right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 million.
50 million are permitted on the shelf. Once we have funding, they'll get started on them.
So let's just say that you bought into this idea that Walton County sort of is a frivolous spender, and we could tighten up our belt, and then we could also use whatever surplus the general fund has every year. I think I've heard numbers of around $6-7 million.
I believe so. I actually have a meeting with the CFO for the county the middle of next week, because I want to ask those questions.
Well, I don't want to intrude on your meeting, but I've also requested a meeting, and I don't want to jump on that person with the same question. So please, share some information with me. I'm very interested in the shovel-ready projects. I'm very interested in that 17.9% general funds budget. I do think people need to know and feel confident that, their money's being spent wisely. And if you've got that sort of feeling that maybe that's not the case, there's nothing wrong with asking questions and asking your elected officials and government to prove it to me, baby.
Absolutely. No, hey, I called one of the commissioners today and asked a couple of questions of something I didn't understand. He's pointing me in the right direction. I'm going to try to do some research because I'm trying to answer a question for somebody. But that is the thing, and this is how we've addressed the trust factor. The surtax is limited to what it can do by ordinance, and it's going to be audited by an independent auditor annually. Now, politically, who's going to, you keep in mind that that people that are on the Board of County Commissioners, anybody that's elected office wants to stay in office for whatever reason. So you've got pressure right there if they were to do something wrong. Well, they can't do anything wrong. I mean, the state of Florida can come right in and say, guys, y'all got to stop. We're done, because right. This is what you said you would do. Here's the ordinance. To do anything different, it's going to be a violation of the law.
Yeah. On another note, and I mean, it's real important for me to have a mobile setup for the podcast, content that I do. And so I'm literally standing in the middle of a road here in the Point Washington State Park, and I'm about to be passed by some folks who are going to go visit the state park. So they're probably wondering why some guy has got a tripod in the middle of the road, but whatever. It's fashion.
Hey, we do. Isn't technology great? We do what we look. These are things that we can do now that we couldn't have done years ago.
I mean, and I think the way that's changing us as a society is not fully appreciated. And the speed at which it's changing things, I think it's great. I love the fact that we can connect on the side of the road. You know, I'm busy doing other stuff. You're busy doing other stuff. If we've got 10 or 15 minutes to get together and talk about things, you know, we can make it happen. And that's really cool. But speaking of getting together and talking about things, you've been kind of run over the coals here lately about your stance or your willingness to advocate for this. And, you know, I heard things like, you know, well, they weren't all that kind, but I mean, is there anything you want to say about that? Or
so what is it if you either stand for something or fall for anything? Is that the way the word goes?
I think that is the way.
Yeah. I did the research. Look, this is such an opportunity for us to get ahead of infrastructure. You normally can't get ahead of infrastructure. Everybody says, "Oh, we ought to pave the roads before the people move here." Well, you can't do that because where are you going to get the money from to pave the roads before the people move here? You know, when you move here, as you well know in the real estate business, and buy a lot and build a house, what is it, 2 years before your ad valorem taxes start flowing into the system? Well, in those 2 years, you're going to want services and somebody's got to pay for them. We have 5.8 million people come to see us every year. This is a way for them to contribute a dime on that $10 sandwich. You know, you don't pay in the state of Florida, you don't pay sales tax on food. You don't pay sales tax on drugs. If you buy a new car, the most you'll pay is $50 because there is a limit on just the first $5,000 is all that you can put the surtax on. So we as residents, plus we get all these sales tax holidays, and Governor DeSantis has announced probably another dozen more starting next year. So there's all these times that we don't pay sales tax. All we're paying is property tax. Our visitors are coming down here. They spend more in a week on sales taxable items than we probably spend in a year, especially when you start looking at what they're spending to rent a place for a week. You know, that's not unusual. You spend $10,000, $15,000. I hear a lot of people spend a lot more. I have a friend of mine that's over from Galveston, Texas now down in Miramar Beach. And they go out every night. They go out for breakfast, lunch, dinner. He's out all the time. He's rented the place. He's making a big contribution to the economy down here. And I appreciate it because it's what allows me to live in a place where my property taxes are some of the lowest in the state of Florida. And that's what makes this place paradise, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to keep my mind open and I'm going to keep looking around for evidence as to what I should think. But I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me, Robert.
Okay.
Let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. And when I find out more from the CFO, I'll get up with you and let you know where we're at, because I agree with you. We don't need to all be hammering the same people with the same questions.
That's right. Thank you, man. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Later. Bye.